Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Church of Grace. My name is Patrick Hayes, and tonight is Wednesday, and tonight is, I don't even know what the date is. It is Wednesday, January 17th. Stay out of my preaching, Rick. It's Wednesday, January 17th, and we are in our financial class. We're in part 3. And we had just a little bit of stuff to go over from last week that we wanted to finish before we're ready to move on to this week's stuff. So we're going to finish up the very tail end of part 2. We are starting a little late, and my wife's going to be coming here in a few minutes with extra notebooks in case anyone needs one, because although you might have forgotten yours at home, we forgot the whole box of them at home. So when she gets here, if someone could help me pass those out, one of the young fellas there. And then we're going to finish up night number 2. We were talking about buying a home and the mortgage, and then we're going to get into night number 3. So last week we finished up, we talked about the difference between a 15 and a 30-year mortgage. And we talked about the difference as far as the interest you're going to pay, the total amount of money you're going to save over the life of your loan, and how you're basically a crazy person if you take out a 30-year mortgage. Now, I wanted to say, and I think I said it last week, that 90% of home buyers choose a 30-year mortgage. Why is that? The payments are smaller, but it's also what makes the banks more money, and that's why they advertise that, and they push lenders to push that on you. You don't want to do a 15, the payment's going to be higher. Yeah, I'm also going to save almost $100,000 at the end of my mortgage, and I kind of like the sound of that. So just remember, the realtor and the mortgage lender are not your friend, neither are banks, neither are credit unions. They're all out to make a buck. All right, so let's move on to what we were talking about was rule number 2 when buying a home. Rule number 2 is we want our monthly payment to be less than 25% of our take-home pay. Now, it can be right at 25%, but we don't want to go any higher than that. Now, I understand that home prices are high right now, but the idea we were talking about was that every percentage point that you spend above 25% of your take-home pay, that's 1 percentage point that you cannot put toward retiring your debt, investing for the future, and that's going to drastically slow down your progress. Nick?
We don't buy a home until we're out of debt, right?
You should not. Okay, so the question was we should not buy a home till we're out of debt. That is correct. But let me say this, even more importantly, all the steps that we laid out, you want to do them one at a time. Everyone is going to have a desire because they're going to say, Patrick, I'm a lot older this year than I was 5 years ago. Boy, I want to get going on investing, but I still have this debt. I'm just going to do both at the same time. And what happens is nobody can do a half dozen things at the same time effectively. We want laser-focused intensity on each step of this process. And we start with 1, then we go to 2, then we go to 3. So we do want to get out of debt before we buy a home. And you're going to be able to save up the money for the down payment on that home so much faster when you're not dragging around all that debt. So yes, that's exactly what we want to do. So let's see. The goal is that your house is a blessing. And there are so many people that are stressed out because they bought too much house. Now, when Joanna and I bought our first house, it was the absolute tippy top of the 2008 housing market bubble. Like 2 months later, our house dropped 15-20% in value. And by the end of a calendar year, it was down like 40% in value. But during that time, we bought a house for $130,000. Yeah, it was not brand new. It was 100 years old. And there were cigarette burns in the carpet. But we could move our junk in there and we could live and we were happy. And our kids didn't know any better. If you look at the notes, you'll see a chart that I made showing your income, your take-home pay, which is post-tax dollars, by month, and 25% of that number. So it shows you, depending on the amount of money you make, how much your monthly mortgage payment should be if it is going to be 25% of your take-home pay. So you don't really have to do the math, you just have to look at that chart and figure that out. The purchase of your first home is a great way to totally destroy your budget and totally set you back many, many years when you've been doing well financially. So my number 2 major money no way Jose is buying too much house. Many people who are good with their money set themselves back several years because they buy too much house that they cannot afford. Now, when you buy your house, remember, you're going to talk to your realtor is going to introduce you to a lender, and your lender is going to ask you how much money you make and how much money you owe. And when you tell them how much money you make, I don't care if it's minimum wage, they are going to go, "Oh, you make that much money? That's amazing. You can afford a house this big." And that doesn't mean you can afford a house that big. That means they will loan you enough money to buy a house that big. The amount that you can afford is 25% or less of your take-home pay. And that doesn't mean you're getting a great house. Okay, but I'm going to tell you this, okay, can I use real numbers, like totally legit? And please understand, I'm not trying to brag, okay, this is just real. I bought that house for $130,000, that 100-year-old house. Very slowly over the course of 15 years, no, not 15, yeah, I think about 15 years, we remodeled that house a little here, a little there, just as we could afford it, nothing big, didn't borrow any money, did it all for cash. And then at the end of that, we sold that house and we walked away from the closing table with a check greater than the amount we bought the house for. Let time do the heavy lifting. Our house, we paid down the mortgage, little extra, more than just the minimum payment. We remodeled it a little bit, and we waited until the market was just on fire going up, and we walked away with a check greater than $130,000. That's what we cleared after paying off the bank for that home. I want to say 15 years. We lived there for 10, and then we used it as a rental for another 3 or 4 or 5 years. Somewhere in there, I don't remember exactly. Okay? So remember, that 100-year-old house with cigarette burns in the carpet. And you want to know what I found underneath the hot water heater when I went down in the basement? Little plastic baggie of meth and a spoon. Okay? That was the house. Yeah. No, no. Nope. That house, over time, ended up being a phenomenal help to our family. Okay, not in the first couple years, because the value just went just shooting down because of the 2008 housing bubble. But you let time do the heavy lifting. So just remember, okay, and here's the big deal. In the 10 years we lived in that house, we were below 25% of our take-home pay, and that allowed us to sock away a pile of money, which we used to build our house that we have today, which is our dream home. We wouldn't have been able to do that if we were so over-leveraged on our house that we're paying 50% of our take-home pay towards the mortgage. We wouldn't have been able to save up a penny. So it's critical that you are able to get into that window. Okay, so buying too much of a house. Rule number 3 with buying a house, a bank lending you the money does not mean you can afford the house. It's your responsibility to figure out what you can afford. The bank is not there to help you. My realtor, I have never yelled at someone so loud in all my life as my realtor, who I said, this is what we're willing to spend, and we would get brought to a house that was $25,000, $50,000 more. Again and again and again. And finally, I just threw a fit and I said, are you paying the difference? Because if you're not, just stop. And as soon as they would say the price, they're like, we're out of here, right in the car, and we'd go home. I finally fired them. They are trying to upsell you. Why? Because they make a percentage on that's what their commission is. So they make more money if they sell you more house. They don't care if you can afford it. They don't care if it ruins you financially. Mac, everyone that needs a set of notes, raise your hand. Mac will bring you one. Mac, bring me one as well, please, whenever you're done. All right, let's talk about this. Does anyone know what PMI is? It is a deadbeat tax. When you buy a house, you must put a down payment on the home, not because it makes good financial sense. Now it does make good financial sense, but that's not why we are going to do it. We are going to do it because God says so. If you turn in your Bible to Psalm chapter 37, verse 21, we are going to read a very important verse. God says, the wicked borroweth and payeth not again, but the righteous showeth mercy and giveth. The wicked borroweth and payeth not again. When you borrow money from a bank to buy a house, whose job is it to make sure that the bank is made whole? It's your job. If you're a Christian, it's your job. It is not okay that you get foreclosed on and that bank loses money. Do you understand that it is your responsibility? You borrowed the money. That bank must be made whole. Now, let's run over this scenario. You buy a house and you do everything wrong. So you put 3.5% down because you have a 580 credit score and some bank is stupid enough to lend you money. You also sign up for a 30-year mortgage. And in the first couple of years, you are barely paying anything off on the principal amount. I'm not going to explain to you how the principal versus interest on the payment works right now, but understand that your first payment to the bank is practically 100% interest. The value of the loan doesn't go down at all. It progressively goes down over the life of the mortgage. Now, 2 years after you move into the house, the value has dropped about 8%, and you all of a sudden, I don't know, you lose your job, you get hurt or injured on the job, you can't work, and now that bank is going to foreclose on that house. Now, that bank is underwater. You only put 3.5% down, the value of your house went down, so now the bank has lost roughly 4.5% on your home. That is your problem. Because the Bible says the wicked borrow and pay not again. We do not want to be wicked. So believe it or not, it is our job to protect the lender. So how do we do that? We do that by saving up and putting no less than 20% of the home value down as a down payment. That is what we must do. There's a good financial reason to do it as well, but we do that because we are Christians and we love God and we obey God, and God says the wicked borrow and pay not again.
What was that, Psalms 27?
It was Psalms 27, verse 21. 37, Psalm 37, verse 21. It's in your notes. Oh yeah, every Bible verse I say should be in your notes, unless I forgot. Okay, so we're going to save up and put 20% down on our mortgage. You say, Patrick, that's going to take forever. Yeah, it might take a minute. But there's something else it does for you other than keeping you right with God. Because remember, in the same scenario, you put 20% down, the value of your house drops by 8%, you lose your job, you can't pay your mortgage, you get foreclosed upon. Guess what? That bank gets your home at a 12% discount. They're happy to take your home because they're going to make money. Now, it's a terrible situation, But the point is, people think, what do I care if the bank loses money? You should care, because you borrowed the money. You owe them the money, and God doesn't forget that. So we want to put 20% down, because that way we can make sure the bank is made whole if something happens and they have to repossess the home. Now, how do you know if you cannot afford your home? You want to buy a home, talk to the realtor, pick the home, talk to the lender, they're going to lend you the money. How do you know if you can't afford the home? You know you can't afford the home if you have to pay PMI. PMI is deadbeat insurance. It stands for private mortgage insurance. So here's what happened. The federal government started putting pressure on lenders because not enough people of certain classes were buying homes. Now, there was a reason. They couldn't afford the home. That's why banks wouldn't lend the money to buy the home. They didn't want to lose money. But the government put pressure on all these banks and said, you need to start making more loans to people that can't afford to buy these houses. Now, the banks are just as crooked as the federal government. I'm not trying to make the banks look and smell like roses. What I'm saying is the banks started loaning money to people who couldn't afford their homes. Well, guess what happened to most of those people? They got foreclosed on. Bank had to take back the home. When a bank takes back a home, it loses a lot of money. It's not what it wants to do. It wants to lend you the money and collect interest for 30 years. That's what it wants to do. So the bank started saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. If you are not able to put down 20% of your home in a down payment, we are going to charge you private mortgage insurance. That's insurance that you pay to cover the bank for when you foreclose. You lose the house, and they're like, well, that's going to cost us a lot of money, so we're going to make you pay insurance to cover us if you lose the home. Okay, so who does not have to pay private mortgage insurance? People who put down 20% on their home. George.
So theoretically, the bank is banking on you losing the home?
They're banking on you losing the home to the point where they're forcing you to pay insurance to cover their loss in the event of that case happening.
You don't want, so you do want PMI greater than 20?
No. If you put a 20% down payment on your house, you do not have to pay PMI. If you put a down payment of less than 20%, the bank says you're too risky. If you can't afford to put 20% down on your house, we need to cover ourselves because we're probably going to foreclose on your home. Rick.
Yeah, so PMI is added into your monthly payment, correct?
Yes. Okay, so here's how it works. PMI is a yearly fee that costs roughly 1% of the total value of your home. So you buy a house, and you buy a house for $250,000. It's going to cost you roughly $2,500 a year. They just take that $2,500 a year and add it to your monthly mortgage payment. So you just added $208 to your mortgage payment for the life of the loan. For 30 years. You pay an extra $208. They changed the law. Yes, that's exactly correct.
When did it change?
A couple years ago. It does not change once you get past 80%,
Dropped off like 2 months ago.
only if you refinance. How long have you owned your house?
4 years.
You were grandfathered in. What it used to do is once you got the value of your home paid down below 80%, they would take away the PMI. They no longer do that. Even when you drop the value of your house, you pay down the mortgage below 80% of the total value, you still pay the 1% of the original loan value for the remainder of the loan, unless you refinance, which costs you a couple $1,000s. So PMI is a deadbeat tax. The bank is telling you you cannot afford this house. Save up more money, have 20% or greater of a down payment and you will not have to pay PMI. Any questions? Rick?
Yeah, so didn't that happen after, remember banks were lending more than what you actually could afford? And they got themselves into trouble. and
Yep.
The federal government had to bail them out. And then there were new stipulations and regulations. Is that when that came into play?
That's exactly when it came into play. Yes, Pam?
Would a lender ever try to, like say, you didn't think class, you didn't know that it was required, it was less than 20%. Would a lender ever try and like dupe you into getting it, like, oh, you should get this PMI to protect yourself, blah, blah?
Oh, no. No, it's automatically added
It's just automatic.
if, yep.
You'd be able to buy mortgage insurance, just so if you were sick or couldn't make the payment.
Yeah, you could buy insurance on anything. Okay, any questions on PMI? Now, remember, if you end up paying that $208 extra a month because you had a $250,000 loan and you're paying 1% every month, at the end of the 30 years, guess how much extra you're paying to the bank? $75,000. That's not in interest, that's just in insurance. That's money that did not go to getting out of debt, that did not go to investing and retiring. All that money, $75,000, you just handed over to the bank.
I did this example in '07.
Yep.
I didn't do it in cavalier. And then the company lost, and
Yep.
my partner, we did this, and
Yeah.
it was too much house.
Yep, it was too much house. That's all it is. We do not want to have to get into PMI. Okay, so the way we avoid PMI is 20% down payment. I don't care how long it takes to save up, you must do it. Remember, the larger your down payment, the lower your monthly payment. Oh yeah, as much as you can. If you have a giant pile of money, throw it all at that house. Okay, now remember, we're not buying a house until we have gone through all the steps leading up to this. Okay, so we already have our 3 to 6 months of reserves, we're out of debt, okay, nothing changes. We do these steps in order, we do them one at a time. Okay, so listen. This is important. We said poor is a way of thinking. It's not an amount of money. Poor is a way of thinking. If you are a low-income earner, poor thinking is pawn shops. Poor thinking is payday loans. Poor thinking is doing stupid financial things that will keep you where you are. Then you have medium-income earners who are poor. They do things like buying a boat, paying PMI, taking out auto loans. It is still poor thinking that will force you to stay in this situation and not be able to graduate to the next level. It's not as bad as a payday loan, but believe me, it is going to beat you up. There is no way to pay PMI for 30 years and hand a bank $75,000 and move your financial future forward. You're constantly in the mud, paying out all this extra money that should be going into your investment for retirement. George.
Would it be safe to say that 50% of people producing a home are in the PMI?
I would have to look up the stats.
But it sounds like it's probably,
It's a lot of people.
because it has,
There used to be a day when everyone put down 20% or more, and everyone had a traditional loan or a traditional mortgage, and and then they started coming up with all these different ways to incentivize people to buy a house even when they couldn't afford it.
I just tell you that they want to make more money.
Yeah. Yep. Barb.
Does PMI reduce
Nope.
your mortgage?
Nope. Does not reduce. Never. It's always that 1% of the original value of the loan. Yeah, it's a punch in the face. And you wouldn't believe how many people sign up for that and pay that for the life of their loan and don't even think about it. They're like, oh, that's just what we do. That's what everybody does. Because that's what your realtor and your lender are going to say. Oh, it's one of those fees. It's what we all got to do. I pay it. Yep. All right, let's keep moving on. Rule number 4 for buying a house. get a fixed interest rate. If you're a home buyer on a tight budget and adjustable rate mortgage, adjustable rate, ARM, adjustable rate mortgage is going to sound good because it's going to be a lower payment. Okay, the trouble is the rate goes up and it goes up fast, leaving you with a monthly payment you cannot afford. You never want an adjustable rate, okay, you want a fixed rate. Without going into it, does anyone have questions on those things, or can we move on
I just want
to night number 3?
3-2-1
Mm-hmm.
to an ARM is another thing that's happening right now, where you have a lower rate for 3 years,
And then it goes up,
2 years,
yeah.
a little higher than 1, and then it goes to whatever market is in 3 years. So
Yeah.
sometimes we hear, well, it's fixed rate
For this long.
for a short.
Yeah, you want a fixed rate for the full term. So you want fixed rate, 15-year term, 20% down, 25% or less of your take-home pay. Those are the 4 rules. You do that, your home will be a blessing. Rick?
Back in '88, when we were buying homes, 13% interest, and how they were getting people in there were just by graduated payment. Based on, so every year it would go up. Got it so high, and all those houses went back to the bank.
Sometimes you can buy down the rate also is another thing just to mention.
You can. Financially speaking, does anyone know why paying okay, we're not even mentioning this, and usually I don't bring it up just for time, but thank you, Nick, for always being willing to get us off on a rabbit trail. So buying down the rate or paying points on your rate, it's a bad idea. Don't ever do it. Does anyone know why? Average person stays in their home less than 5 years. So whatever amount you're going to save, you're going to figure you're going to save that money with the lower interest rate on the life of your loan, but the average person moves after 5 years, so you never get to a point where you actually save money. So don't ever do that. Here's the deal, folks. If you're about to buy a home or you're starting to look for a home, just call me. I'll be happy to talk to you about all this stuff and much, much more. Okay, so you don't have to remember everything, tonight. Pam, what you got?
What are your thoughts of you yourself purchasing a home that's in foreclosure?
So you're talking about,
Like if I were to look for a home,
Uh-huh.
because they're usually less expensive, or whatever,
yeah,
but is that like
I don't have a
on someone else's?
I don't have a problem buying a property or a home in foreclosure. I've done it. I've bought in properties and homes at, normal market rate, in foreclosure, at tax lien auctions. I've done everything. I'm fine with all of it. But there are rules for every situation, which we don't have time to go over right now. So, but good question. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. If you can get something on sale, it's great. Get it on sale. But you just got to be aware of some stuff. No, short sale is different. Yep. Yeah, real estate's a big topic. And I love real estate. Joanna and I have been in real estate since we've been married. I'm a fan of real estate, fan of investing in real estate. We'll talk about it more later. Okay, let's get on to night number 3. Yeah, I know. All right, I promise you some interesting statistics every night, and I won't disappoint. These statistics will be applicable to what we're going to discuss tonight. In the book, The Millionaire Next Door, thousands of millionaires in America were interviewed to see how they generated wealth. Many interesting facts came to light. What they started doing was they started going to affluent neighborhoods and interviewing people to find millionaires that they could compile statistics on. You want to know the problem? There were not enough millionaires in the affluent neighborhoods to be able to compile information on and write the book. They had to go down to middle-income neighborhoods. That's where all the millionaires were. Most of the people in the rich parts of town have rich-looking houses and rich-looking automobiles, and they're all borrowed out to the max, and they have no wealth. Do you understand that high income doesn't mean wealth? You can make $250,000 a year and be broke because all your money is going out. Every dollar that comes in goes out. Middle-income neighborhoods to do the survey on to find actual millionaires. All right, so there is a big difference between income and wealth, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. Let me ask you a question. When considering the majority of millionaires in America, how much is the most they ever spent on a suit? Out of tens of thousands of millionaires interviewed, what's the most the average millionaire spent on a suit ever in their life? $400. $400. You go to the JCPenney website, and the most expensive suit on the site today is $290. So who's buying all the expensive suits? Poor people. That's right, that are paying PMI. Okay, for every millionaire who buys a $1,000 suit, there are 6 owners of a $1,000 suit who have an annual income of $50,000 to $200,000. But guess what they are not? They are not millionaires. What about a pair of shoes? How much did most millionaires pay for a pair of shoes in their life? $140. Most they ever spent. What about a wristwatch? Wristwatch was a little more, $235. 1 in 10 millionaires never paid more than $47 for a wristwatch, and 1 in 4 millionaires never paid more than $100. Do you know the most popular vehicle that a millionaire in America drives today? Ford F-150, 4 years old with 40,000 miles on it.
Is that Ford Transit?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. A Ford F-150, 4 years old with greater than 40,000 miles on it.
They bought it at 4 years old with 40,000.
They bought it used for cash with 40,000 miles on it. Who buys expensive looking shiny cars? Poor people. Go drive through the trailer parks of this valley, you will find shiny expensive cars everywhere. Okay, it is easier to purchase products that make us look financially superior than it is to be financially superior through economic achievement. So the fundamental concept we all need to learn and accept is this: act your wage. That's what we need to do. Here's the deal: there's nothing wrong with being rich, unless you are trying to live like you are super rich. There is nothing wrong with being middle income, unless you are trying to live like you are rich. Most people in America are trying to live way beyond their means, and they've been doing it all their life. Okay, we're going to get back into our budget. Remember, the purpose of going over our budget is to find ways to save money so that we can apply it to our debts, so that we can save money, so that we can invest for our retirement. So we're going to run through these as quickly as we can. Let's see, utilities. Most people don't pay attention to their utilities, but I am continually amazed at how many people will leave on the radio, the computer, their tablet, the TV, all kinds of stuff. I go into people's houses all the time. I own a service company. Okay, I do plumbing, heating, and cooling. That's the majority of my work. So I go into people's houses all the time, and it blows me away how much stuff is constantly left on. Turn off the stinking lights. I knew a dad that every time his kids would leave a light on, he would go into their bedroom and bathroom and unscrew all the light bulbs, and they would lose them for 2 days. They stopped leaving the lights on. Sorry, you lost your light bulb privileges again. Oh. All right, trash companies. If you live in a subdivision, you can make a call to all the trash companies and say, hey, if I could get every single neighbor in my neighborhood to all go with you, how much would you charge us for trash? And you could get everyone's bills lowered down. It's worth a phone call. Let's see. Sewer and water, you're not going to save much on that, but a running toilet. Anyone want to guess how much it can add to your water bill every month? Yeah, easily $50 to $250 if you hear your toilet dripping. I can hear it from 4.5 miles away. I've clocked it. $50 to $250 a running toilet.
What's a flapper valve, like $6?
Yeah. Yep, the fix is under 10. Yep.
Anybody in this room.
Anybody in this room with a smartphone and YouTube and an IQ as big as your shoe size can fix it. I recommend for your safety you hire me to do it. Okay? But you can do it. Yes, Christy? It's going to be probably about the same. Toilets cost more, but a dripping sink costs money too. And it's a little rubber gasket and a spring and some faucet grease that cost, again, less than $10, and you could fix it. So, okay, gas bill. You can save a lot of money by turning down your hot water heater and your furnace. Here's the deal, folks. Do not set your furnace to 75 degrees and put on shorts and a t-shirt. Set it to 65 and put on some slippers. Okay, let's see. Internet, shop around and save money. Cell phone, shop around and save money. I feel so stupid. I called my cell phone company. I think it was because I told my wife what I was paying for my cell phone, and she's like, no, that can't be right. And I'm like, no, it's definitely right. And she's like, yeah, that sounds like 5 times more than you should be paying for your cell phone. I was paying 5 times more than I should have for my cell phone. I just had the same plan for like 8 years. And I didn't realize that prices were going down and down and down. So I was paying like $180 a month for my cell phone. Now we pay less than $30. I mean, it's insane. Make some phone calls. Okay, you can save money. Let's see. If you're going through on your budget, you'll see investing. We're going to skip that for right now. We're going to come back to it in 20, 30 minutes. Okay, groceries. I want to go over this just to give you some principles. We all have to eat, okay? We all got to eat. Lord knows I love eating. You don't look this way from breathing air. But on average, a person eats 100 meals per month. 3 meals a day times 30 days, plus a few extra meals because we like to eat. If you spend an average of $2 per meal per person, you're spending $200 on yourself. But you'll spend, if you're going to spend 75 cents per meal per person, then you'll spend $75 for yourself. That's a difference of $500 a month. The saying goes like this: if you live on pork chops, you will retire on dog food. Okay, we can't just eat everything we want all the time. It's wildly expensive. We got to stop doing it. Several small changes put together will save us enough money so that we can, step number 4, get out of debt, and step number 5, save up 3 to 6 months for our emergency fund, and then we can start investing for retirement. Now look, I've taught this to lots and lots of people over, 20 years of ministry. Some people get it and they get hungry for it, and they attack their debt and pay it off with laser-focused intensity, and it's gone in a year or two. Massive amounts of debt. And then they start saving up, and their life is different forever, and their kids' lives are different, and their family changes dramatically. Other people are like, nah, yeah, kind of sounds good, that's probably right, and they don't do anything about it. And it's a shame, and I hate that. But look, all of this information is not for those of you who need it. It is for those of you who want it. If you take this serious and you make some changes, your life can be very, very different. Principle number 1 with food: food is a necessity, not a luxury item. So how do we save money on our food budget? Principle number 2, make a grocery list and a menu. Grocery list and a menu. Have what you're going to eat the whole week planned out ahead of time. Go to the grocery store one time. Do food planning, do meal planning. Ready for this stat? 85% of millionaires use a grocery list when they go shopping. You cannot go to the grocery store when you're hungry and buy whatever looks good. You'll go broke. Yep. Okay, you need to have a shopping list, and you need to stick to it. You also need to get into the habit of planning out your meals. When Joanna and I first got married, we were so broke. It was ridiculous. We didn't have 2 nickels to rub together. So we lived like poor people, and because of that, we were able to save up money. So this is an example of what we did. Breakfast. 4 bowls of oatmeal. That's plain, not the instant stuff. No flavor, oatmeal. Add 2 tablespoons of brown sugar per bowl, then add 1 banana per person. My family of 4, when we ate that meal, spent $1.88 for breakfast for 4 people. If your family eats that every day for a week, it'll cost $13.16. And if you can manage to eat it for a whole month, that's $58.28. Now, I'm not telling you that's what you should do. But do you understand the difference between that and bacon and eggs and Belgian waffles and fresh fruit and a big, tall 16-ounce glass of orange juice? Yeah, it is a massive difference. However you want to do it, the principle applies. Coffee. George, you brought it up. God bless you for doing so. Let's talk about coffee. If you drink a 12-ounce cup of coffee every day, you're going to spend somewhere between $2 to $50 a month, depending on where that coffee comes from. The cheapest coffee you can find at Walmart, which was also the cheapest coffee you'd find, that was the coffee you'd find at my house if you came over to our house when we first got married. One 12-ounce cup cost me 7 cents. A week's worth was less than 50 cents, and a whole month was a whopping $2.10. If you decided to go for the top shelf coffee, the kind of stuff that you buy in whole beans and ground up yourself, you would end up spending 19 cents per cup, $1.33 a week, and $5.31 per month. But if you were one of those clinically insane people that says, I got to go get me a cup of coffee from Starbucks, then you are going to end up paying $1.85 to walk into work holding a real, genuine Starbucks 12-ounce cup of coffee. And for the record, that 1 cup of coffee from Starbucks was equal to, it was actually greater than, my coffee budget for the entire month. That equals $12.95 a week or $55.50 a month. And if you are one of those absolutely insane people that needs a white chocolate mocha every day, you pay $4.75 per cup, $33.25 a week, or $144.50 a month. Again, I'm not saying not to ever get a large, fancy cup of coffee. I got my wife an espresso machine, and she makes them for us at home. Those large, fancy coffees that cost people $5 or more cost us less than 50 cents. I'm just saying this principle can be applied. Do you know what it costs to brown bag a lunch? Okay, let me tell you something. I can afford to eat out every day for lunch. And my wife brown bags me a lunch every single day. I never eat out unless a friend calls me up and is like, hey, I'm in the neighborhood, you want to grab a whatever. I never eat out. It's not even a concept that I would entertain. We always brown bag lunches. It saves a fortune over years. Remember, winning with money is 80% behavior and only 20% head knowledge. If you can get that person in the mirror to change their behavior, there's no stopping you. Any questions? I don't know why, but what happens, we're all guilty of it. And honestly, are you ready for this? If you are thinking of making these changes and applying this stuff to your life and getting serious, you should get a budget buddy. Someone in this room that understands what you're going through, that you can call and be like, drove past Starbucks again, I didn't do it, I wanted to do it, I didn't do it. It is a good thing to do to have someone else that you can talk to about this. Have a support system in place. It's like we're a bunch of drug addicts. I mean, some of us are, but I mean, it's like all of us are. We want to spend money. It feels good, right? Get that dopamine rush. Yes, ma'am. What's your question?
I know that you're a survivalist,
Mm-hmm.
and I know that must have fit into the grocery bill somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Do you have a rule that says put this much each time you buy your groceries, put this much over here?
Okay, so Barb was asking about, hypothetically, someone in this room being a prepper. So if someone were to be a prepper, I would suggest that they put it on a line item in their budget, just like everything else. Okay, so you're going to buy long-term food storage, you're going to buy guns and ammo, you're going to buy, silver 1-ounce coins, you're going to buy whatever you want. It's a line item in a budget. Everything should be a line item in a budget. Yep. All right. Date nights and restaurants. I love to eat out. I love to eat out. If you want to try to save money, make dinner at home and just go out for coffee afterward. You still feel like you're having fun and you're going out for a night on the town, but it's way cheaper. Go to the places that have the deals. My wife and I used to go to Johnny Carino's when it was in town. I think it was every Tuesday night. They had family night. And for half price, you'd get a plate of food that could feed like a family of 4. We would, load up on breadsticks and nibble on the food, and then we'd have lunch for like 3 days, and we felt like kings. And it was half price. We go cheap. We just do it. And you can still have fun. Just set it aside in your budget, but there's nothing wrong with that. Now look, if you are wildly in debt, then you should not see the inside of a restaurant unless you're waiting tables at it. Okay, as a second job because you need to get out of debt. That's where some of us are. For others, put the line item in your budget, but keep it under control. Same thing with your allowance. It doesn't matter how much you set aside for an allowance. What I would suggest is that you use cash for that line item so you don't go over, and it's just important that there is a line item in the budget and you stay within that framework. There's nothing wrong with wasting money. You just have to plan on how much money you're going to waste. Okay, cancel all memberships until you're out of debt with money. Stop Netflix, stop Hulu, stop Apple TV, go to the library. Do you know sweetie, how many times did we do that? Where when we were poor, we went to the library and got DVDs for free. They have thousands of them. That's how we used to watch TV series. Jack Bauer and 24, we watched every single season on a DVD from the library for free. You want to save money, you can do it. How serious are you? All right. Any questions? And we're moving on. Okay. After looking at our budget, some of us might be feeling pretty good. Others might have no money at the end of the month and we are panicking. Let's see how we're actually doing when it comes to money. Most people think to themselves, well, I'm making a lot of money. I must be doing pretty good. That's not necessarily the case. Even if they do make a lot of money every year, what it comes down to is how much are they spending. So let's start out by figuring out what our net worth is. Our net worth. Your net worth is all of your assets minus your liabilities. Now, you need to figure out this number, and you need to figure it out right now. This is going to help you. So what you're going to do is, I'm going to erase something here and use some whiteboard. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add up all of our assets, and then we're going to subtract. That might be how you spell liabilities, and that's going to give us our net worth. So our assets are everything of value we own. Money in the bank account, cash value of any retirement accounts. How much is your house worth? Not how much you wish it was worth, but how much is it really worth? The actual value of your vehicles. Do you own any stocks, bonds, or CDs? Do you own any Bitcoin? Do you own any gold or silver? Do you own a second home or a rental property? Add it all up. Those are your assets. Now add up your liabilities. Everything you owe money on. student loan, home equity line of credit, credit card debt. If you owe money on your house or your vehicles, then you put that number in your liabilities. So if you own a house for $200,000, that's the value of the house, but you owe $150,000 on that house really has $50,000 of equity. So the asset is worth $200,000, the liability is $150,000, and we're going to subtract all of our assets from all of our liabilities. You do the same thing with a car. $5,000 car, I owe $1,000 on it, okay? That's going to total $4,000. You understand? Any questions? Figuring out our net worth. No questions whatsoever? Okay, your net worth. Do you know what the number is a representation of? Your net worth is a representation of your choices in your life to this point. There are many ways we can judge ourselves and our behavior. Every morning, I step on a scale. That's one way that I judge myself and my behavior. Another way is my net worth. There are lots of ways to do it. Now, if our scale or our net worth doesn't make us feel good, we can make changes. We can all do that. Now that we have our net worth, what does that tell us? We can use our net worth to calculate how we are doing financially with our net worth should be number. Do you know that you have a number that your net worth should be based on your age and how much money you make a year? What you're going to do is you're going to take your annual income, you're going to multiply it by your age, and then you're going to divide by 10, and that is what your net worth should be. So we want to work out this problem right now. So let's say I'm 40 years old, and I earn $150,000 a year. Okay, that means I am at 6 million, and I'm going to divide that number by 10. That's going to give me $600,000. That's where I should be right now. If I'm 40 years old, if I make $150,000 a year. Any questions? You take your age, multiply it by your current annual income, then you take that number and you divide it by 10, and that tells you your net worth should be number. Question is, are you where you should be? Is your net worth double what it should be, or do you have half as much as your should be number? Blythe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, good question. So the question was, what if you're a stay-at-home mom? Do you do your combined income? So if you're married, we only have one income. We only have one set of assets. We only have one set of liabilities, and that is the couple. 100%. Yeah. Yep, that's what you're going to figure out. Yeah. So, and if you really want, it's not, well, so anyway, you can do that as an individual. You can do that as a couple. But anytime we're married, we should always consider our finances together.
And then, like, if you're retired,
Mm-hmm.
is it like what?
If you're retired, okay, then your net worth is what it should be.
Oh.
Right? Because you're able to retire. See, what we're doing is we're looking at how on track are we for our retirement. Yeah. So the question is, how do you want to retire? Do you want to sail around the Mediterranean all year long? Or do you, well, then your number is going to be X, And to get to that number, this will tell you how close you are. So that has a lot to determine, what we're doing. But remember, what we're looking at is this net worth should be number is going to get us to a point where we can retire at what we're going to call our average retirement age. Yeah, which is 60 or greater, typically 65, sometimes as much as 70, but it all depends on a lot of factors. All right. Oh, yeah, add something, Barb. What you got?
Because we are in retirement.
Yeah.
Don't forget to enjoy the journey. Don't spend your whole life to get to 60 and 65.
Sure.
Enjoy it as you go.
So there are 3 things we can do with our money. Anyone know what those 3 things are? Okay, with our money, we can spend it, we can invest it, and we can give it away. Those are the 3 things we can do with our money. Now, the problem is, with most people in America, we are real heavy on the spend it. And because of that, we don't have any money to give it. And we're probably not investing it. So what we need to do is we need to change those ratios. If you get on a serious plan, you will know you're on the right track because all of a sudden you are going to struggle to spend it. That's how you know you're on track. You're a tightwad. And you got to loosen up a little. And you have to put into the budget a line item for the holiday. Got to put in a line item for the vacation. Got to put in a line item for whatever it is. And when you hit the mark, go do it. Well, we've always wanted to go down, on a cruise to the Caribbean. All right, what does it cost? Great. How much are you going to save every month? Great. When you hit the number, go do it. You will know you are on track when it's really hard to spend money. You know you are not on track when you spend money and don't even think about it. Okay. Let's talk about money and wealth and how we're going to retire, and we'll talk about investing, which I promised you we were going to get into. So if we want to retire when we're 65 years old, and you want to live till you're 95 years old, and you want to have $50,000 a year in retirement, all you have to do is save up $1.5 million, and then you can spend $50,000 a year until you die. Now, hopefully, you don't spend more than $50,000 a year, because you'll run out of money, and hopefully, you don't live beyond 95 years old, because then you'll run out of money. So saving up a pile of money and then spending it all every year until you die is the dumbest way to retire. To save up that much money is, first of all, practically impossible. Then to spend up that pile of money that you saved is the worst thing you can do with it. So what we want to do is we want to invest our money. But before we start investing for retirement, we need to be, number 1, debt-free except for our mortgage. Number 2, have 3 to 6 months of our budget saved up for emergencies. By the way, what's an emergency? How do we know if it's an emergency?
Washer dryer, hot water heater, furnace.
If you couldn't
Tennille?
You couldn't predict it and you didn't have it scheduled into your budget.
Okay, so the way we do it is we figure out bear with me. I just lost my place in my notes. Okay, I don't need my notes for this. If it was unexpected, if it is immediate, and if it is necessary, then we take from our emergency fund. If you can plan for it, then it's not an emergency. Maybe we just didn't plan for it. So our vehicle that we use to go to work every day, the transmission dies. The deductible on a medical bill or homeowners or car insurance, that comes up. You can't work for a month due to injury or illness. These are all emergencies. Okay, what is not an emergency? Christmas. Not an emergency. Trip to Mexico. College tuition. Student loans. Going to school for or training for your job. Starting another business. None of these are emergencies. These are things we need to save up for. All right, when a true emergency shows up, we spend the money. That's what it's there for. At this point in our life, we are ready for step 6. Step 6, investing money for our retirement. Okay, questions for investing. Number 1, how much do we want to set aside out of our gross income for investing? We want to save 15% of our gross. Does anyone know the difference between gross and net income? Gross is before taxes, net is after taxes. We want to set aside 15% of our gross income. The reason is that we don't want to set aside more than 15% is we still want to have extra money to be able to pay off our house early, because we're going to get to that. How does investing work? Albert Einstein said compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. He who understands it earns it. He who doesn't pays it. So we want our money in interest-bearing accounts. The interest we earn each year continues to grow. But here's the great part. The interest in these interest-bearing accounts does not grow by addition. It grows by multiplication. So let's say that you have $10,000 in an interest-bearing account, and that interest-bearing account is earning you 9% APR. That's your annual percentage rate. So it's going to earn 9% every year. How long until this $10,000 turns into $20,000?
8 years.
Okay. Nick, say that again. 8 years. How did you come up with that answer so fast? Nick came up with that answer because of a rule that we learn about in investing. That is the rule of 72. So the rule of 72 is very simple. You take the number 72, you divide it by the interest rate you're getting, in our case 9, and that gives you the number of years that it will take for your money to double at that interest rate. Rule of 72. So if you're getting 9%, it'll take you 8 years. How many years will it take to double your money if you're earning 3% a year? Yeah, a lot. 24. 72 divided by 3 is 24 years. You see the difference? We're going to get to that. So, we want to get our money in an account that's earning a good interest rate. Obviously, that's going to help us make money faster, right? So, where do we put it? What are these interest-bearing accounts you talk of, Patrick? There are several. Number 1 is stocks. Individual stocks from a company. Now, I am going to recommend that nobody put their money in individual stocks unless your income per year is going to be greater than $250,000 a year. I would suggest you do not invest your money in individual stocks. Yes?
I don't know if it's like,
Is it a question? No. Okay, then hold on. If you are convinced that you must trade stocks, then this is what I want you to do. A little test for me. In this next year, take a fictitious amount of money. Take a fictitious $100,000, and you're going to buy $10,000 of whatever 10 stocks you think are just the best. And you're going to keep track of them for 1 year. Then you're going to take the New York Stock Exchange and put it on a wall and close your eyes and throw darts at that paper. 10 darts, and you're going to invest another fictitious $10,000 in each of the companies that you hit on the dartboard. Do you know that Wall Street plays this game every year with professional traders, and the dartboard wins 40% of the time? So if you think you're better than the best, go for it. I think we all work too hard for our money to spend it on individual stocks. Does anyone want me to go over what stocks are and how they work? I'm happy to do it for 2 minutes. Okay. Very simply, this is the way it works. We have a company, XYZ Enterprises. XYZ Enterprises is owned by an individual. Nick and his family own XYZ Enterprises, and they make, what do you make, Nick? What product do you make? They make pickleball paddles. And they sell these things all over the world. And they make a great product, but they're looking to expand. And their company needs more money so that they can build another factory to produce twice as many pickleball paddles. So what Nick and his family decides to do is take their company public. So what they do is they issue a number of stocks. And they value their company, and the SEC gets involved, and the government says, okay, because the equipment and the land and the building and all your assets, we're going to say that your company's worth this much money. You can divide that up into however many stocks you want, and you can sell those stocks. So someone buys a share of stock in Nick's company, they own a percentage of that company. And then what I'm hoping to do is have that company's value go up, the price of my stock goes up, and I can sell it for a profit. Nick takes all that money that he generated through the sale of the stock of his company, and he invests it in a second factory. Doubles the size of his business, doubles the production of the pickleball paddles, and his company makes more money. And me, the shareholder, the person that buys the stock, is happy because the value of his company went up, the value of my stock went up. I bought it for $10 a share. I sold it for $15 a share. I made 50% in the 2 years that I own the stock. Everyone's happy. That's what stocks are. It's a way to generate revenue for an individual company, but the trade-off is you're selling part of your company to the shareholders. Any questions on stocks? Okay. Now, mutual funds. Mutual funds. A mutual fund is very simple. When several companies that are publicly traded, they sell stocks. When several of these companies have been tested for years and they have a good track record and they seem to be solid, a company will buy dozens, if not hundreds of stocks and put them all together in a mutual fund. And then you can buy shares of that mutual fund and you own dozens or hundreds of individual stocks in different companies. You can buy mutual funds that are tech mutual funds, energy mutual funds, pharmaceutical mutual funds, foreign market mutual funds, whatever you want, there's a mutual fund for it. And as all of these companies' stocks go up, the value of your mutual fund goes up. The great news is, let's say 15% of the stocks in the mutual fund that you bought go down. Well, that's too bad, but 85% still went up. So you still make money. It's a way to average out and spread out your bet. Mutual funds are hands down the old standby when we are investing. Any questions so far? So, for those of you that own a home, is the value of your home guaranteed to go up? No. So why do you feel comfortable buying a home? What's that? Yeah, over time, they do go up. You got it.
So you're investing money in
The track record of homes is good. Over any 10 or 15 year period, traditionally, the home value is going to be higher than it was 10 or 15 years ago. The historical average for the stock market from 1928 through 2021 is 11.82%. And that's with the 2008 housing market crash. That's with the Great Depression. The average is 11.82%. Now that's over a real long period, but let's look at a period of time that's closer to home. Over a 30-year span, from 1990 to 2020, the S&P's average was 11.55%. From 1985 to 2015, it was 12.36%. From 1980 to 2010, the average was 12.71%. If you are getting 11 to 12% return on your money, that means your money should double in value every 6 to 7 years. But here's the thing. We're not just throwing money at a mutual fund and then sitting there and watching it grow. We're throwing money in this mutual fund every pay period, every month. And we're doing that until the day we retire. And as it grows, we continue to contribute. Now, if you look at the chart in your notes, this one right here, this one is a mutual fund that I am in, and it is a 10-year look back at this mutual fund. Now, if you look at year to year, you're going to get a little bit of whiplash. Because in 2013, that mutual fund went up 35.33%. Woo-wee! That was a good year. Next year, it grew 13.75%. Still good, still good. Next year, it lost 2.75%. Wasn't a great year. When you add up all of those 10 numbers, you find out that the average was what? 12%. Yep. But all of our investments are long term. We are not trying to gain money in the short term for a quick buck and take it out. We put it in and we put it in and we put it in until we hit our retirement age. And over that long period of time, we're going to get 12%. You're actually going to grow by so much more, and I'm going to explain why that works in a second. Okay, let's go down to dollar cost averaging. Dollar cost averaging is what we want to do when we invest. Dollar cost averaging is the practice of investing a fixed dollar amount on a regular basis regardless of the share price. So we make a purchase. We found a mutual fund that we like, okay? And that is XYZ, mutual fund, okay? That's the stock ticker symbol, XYZ. So we make a purchase every month or every pay period of XYZ no matter what. It goes up, we buy it. It goes down, we buy it. It goes down again, we buy it. It goes back up, we buy it. Every pay period from now until when we retire. Now the benefit is that we purchase more shares when the value goes down. Here's the example. We buy $100 of XYZ every month. The shares cost $10 a piece. So when we make that purchase, how many shares do we get? We get 10 shares. Make sense? Okay, then what happens is the price drops the next month to $8 a share. Well, we still put in $100, so now how many shares do we get? Well, now we get 12.5 shares. You see? So XYZ was on sale that month, but we put in the exact same dollar amount every pay period. When you do dollar cost averaging, guess what you hope and pray for? You hope and pray for a dip. See, what you invest in going down doesn't hurt you if you're doing dollar cost averaging, because when it goes back up, you bought more shares, and when the value goes back up, you make more money in a volatile market. The worst thing you can do is have your investment just do this. Just kind of like hang out and go sideways. You want it doing this. All over the place. But over time, it's still trending upward. I gave you an example. This is an example of a lump sum purchase versus dollar cost averaging of any individual stock, any mutual fund, whatever you want to say. In the lump sum purchase example in your notes, we make a $10,000 lump sum purchase of ABC Incorporated. We buy that stock at $50 a share, netting us 200 shares. Now, let's assume the stock reaches the following prices when you want to sell. The column on the right shows the gross profit or loss on each trade. So when the share price drops $10, if we sell, we'll lose $2,000. If the share price raises by $10, we'll gain $2,000. And if the share price goes up by $30, we will net $6,000. But in scenario 2, when we're dollar cost averaging in a falling market, we'll assume that we still buy $10,000 worth of the stock, but we split up the purchases equally amongst 4 purchases as the stock price falls throughout the year. The purchases are made at $50, then it drops to $40, then it drops to $30, then it drops to $25. So those 4 $2,500 purchases will buy us 295.8 shares of the same stock. Do you see the difference? So now when the share price goes down to or goes to $40, if we sell, we will still lose money, but it will be less. When the share price goes up to $60, we will make $7,748 instead of $2,000. And when the price goes up to $80, we will make $13,664, because as the stock goes down, we buy more and more shares. So when it goes up, we have a greater profit. Any question on dollar cost averaging? There is only one time when a down market hurts you. I was corrected. There are 2 times when a down market hurts you. Number 1, you sell. Dumbest thing you could ever do. Number 2, you're living on a fixed income and you depend upon that money for your monthly income. But guess what? Once we move to the point where we're ready to retire, we don't keep all of our money in something so volatile, because we need steady income. So we're going to move it over to something more steady. We're not going to make as much money on the good years, but we're going to have regular income every year. Any questions? I know I went over a lot. Christy, question number 1.
Is this all applicable to, what do you call it, Bitcoin and all those types of things as well?
Any investment at all.
Because of Bitcoin is only one thing versus a mutual fund.
So if you think about, so the question comes down, she was asking about cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. So think of Bitcoin as the individual stock. That's what you're doing. But it's no different. Let's say you're a Bitcoin enthusiast. I am. And you buy it and it's going down, and you buy it and it's going down, you buy it and it's going down. When it comes back up, it's going to do just as well as the individual stock. Every time it goes down and you buy some, you're buying more. So when it goes up, you're getting a greater value when you sell. No different. Mutual fund, individual stock, Bitcoin, whatever you want that investment vehicle to be. Absolutely. Yep. Everybody goes at it backwards. It starts to go down and they get scared and they're like, what am I going to do? Don't buy anymore. As a matter of fact, sell it all at a loss, quick. People do it constantly. And then it turns around and it starts climbing back up and everyone's like, hurry, buy it quick while it's high. People buy high and sell low every day until they're broke. People do it constantly. Don't sell. If it's a quality product, don't sell. It will come back up. George, what you got? So that's why we do mutual funds. And we should do several. Not even just one mutual fund. Okay, there are several growth mutual funds, aggressive growth mutual funds. There are several types that we should do, 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter. Okay, that's all fine. We can go over individuals, in a little bit. Okay, let's see where we are. Okay, how much and how often you save for retirement is 45 times more important than picking and choosing what to invest in. Did you hear that? How much and how often you save for retirement is 45 times more important than picking and choosing what to invest in. If you invested 15%, if you invested 15% of a $50,000 income, and you did that from the age of 25 to 65, assuming that you're going to get 11 to 12% for all those years, how much are you going to have at the end? Yeah, a lot. You're going to have $7 million. 15% of $50,000. $50,000 is not a wildly high income. The average in America is $78,000. Yeah. Now remember, this example assumes you never get a raise. You never get a promotion. You never get married and double your household income. But let's say we're half wrong and you don't get 10 to 11 to 12%. Okay, let's say you get 6%. You're still going to be at about $1.5 million. So, rules for investing. Rule number 1, start. Rule number 1, start. Start now. Nothing is more important. The number one reason people retire with no money in retirement is not their rate of return on their investment. It's not what they put their money into, and it's not the fees that your broker charges you. The number one reason people retire with no money is because they don't put any freaking money in their retirement account. Start! Research indicates that getting people to start investing is the most difficult task and the most important part of wealth creation, because when you start investing, you enter the magical triangle of wealth creation. This is my own drawing. The magical triangle of wealth creation. What's on the top? Time. Down here is the rate of return. And over here is the amount of money that you put in. Time does the heavy lifting. Your success when investing comes down to those three factors. Now, let me show you why your investing start date is the most important part of your success. For all of our examples, we are going to assume that we are going to retire at the age of 65. The reason we bring this up is because 65 years old is the average age that people are going to retire. People who do retire. Some people don't, but for those of us that are going to, that's the average age. Scenario 1, you start out at 22 years old, and what you are going to do is you are going to put 15% of a $35,000 income away. Remember, $28,000 is minimum wage. So $35,000 a year, 15% is $437.50 that you're going to put away, and you're going to do that monthly, and you're going to start at age 22 and you're going to go to age 65. Anyone that does that, okay, with an average rate of return of 11%, which is right in the middle, 10 to 12% is not a problem if you're investing in the market. You are going to end up with greater than $5 million. And that is making $35,000 a year. That is McDonald's with a little bit of overtime. That's what we're talking about. Scenario number 2, you start at 32 years old. 10 years later, you're going to have the same annual income, the same rate of return, so 35K, $437.50 a month, and I think you're going to get $1.2 million. Sorry. It's a little better. 1.7. Now the problem is those 10 years end up losing you $3.5 million. You say, well, Patrick, what if we invest more money? Okay, let's say that we start out at 32 years old and we're going to double the amount. We're going to put in $875 a month. Woo! Patrick, that sounds good. Now we're really cooking. We're still going to go from 32 to 65. We're still going to get the same rate of return. And what that's going to end up getting us is $3.4 million. Even by doubling the amount of money that we put in there, you still lose almost $1.8 million. And you had to double the amount of money that you put in to lose $1.8 million. Do you see now that your starting date is the most important factor? According to a survey by GoBankingRate.com, 69% of seniors have less than $1,000 in a savings account. They are in that situation because they never started investing for retirement. We just have to start. And for the younger people in this room, this is what's important. It works for everybody. Nobody doesn't retire a millionaire unless they decide not to. Everyone can afford to put away 15%. Whether we do it or not is different. And what's going to make it difficult? If we're in debt up to our eyeballs, which is why we start by getting out of debt. Okay. We are going to go a little late because we got to get through some stuff. Hopefully you guys are okay with it. I'll try to make it quick. We have really 2 more things we got to go over. What are we putting this money in? Now this is the question. I had someone ask me this. I had someone say to me, Patrick, I've heard people talk about investing. I've heard people say, put your money in mutual funds. I've heard someone say, you know, a Roth IRA is good. And I've literally wondered to myself, where are these things? Okay, so let's go over the 401k and the Roth IRA. These are the 2 most common investment vehicles that we are going to use to generate wealth. The 401k is a retirement savings plan that many employers offer as a way to encourage their employees to save for retirement. This is how it works. Your employer is going to have a fund where they put all of the employees' money that they set aside and they are going to invest it. The great thing about the 401k is, number one, your employer many times will match the amount of money you put into the 401k. So you can go talk to your employer tomorrow and say, do we have a 401k plan? If you work for someone like me, a small business of 2 people, we do not. If you work for a larger company, they probably do. So you say, do we have a 401k plan? Yes, we do. Would you like to start investing in it? Yes, I would. How much would you like to start investing? Your next question is, how much do you match? Your company might match, let's say, 4% of your income. So you can put in 4% of your income. They take the exact same amount of money and put it in your account as a bonus. They just give you the money. And that money is yours forever. If your company goes out of business, you keep the money. If they go bankrupt, you keep the money. You transfer to another job, you take the money with you. It is always your money, which means a 401k plan that they match, your money grows by 100% the first year. Because every dollar you put into it up to the match point, they literally put in the exact same amount of money into your 401k. Any questions so far?
Well, I think
Pam, give it to me. Go ahead, Pam.
my experience has been that, yes, it's true, but if you leave that job, and it depends on how long you've worked with them, you may or may not be invested to.
100% wrong. You have 401k money sitting somewhere in the world and you need to go find it.
No, but I'm saying you may not got 100, at least my experience is,
Nope.
you may not got 100% of it if you didn't work for them, whatever their rules were.
No, you're talking about stocks where you have to be vested. So they can give you options with stocks and they can say you have to work for this long. And if you work for this long, then you get all of your stock bonus. But that's not a 401k. Every dollar of your 401k is yours. And if you leave a job, there are websites that will help you track down and find your random 401ks that you've forgotten about from 3-4 different jobs over a 30-year period of working. People, they are out there, they are yours, they did not go away, and they've grown, and they're much bigger than when you left the job. If you have a 401k in any job, it's there. It is literally against the law. It did not go anywhere. Yep. Carlos, you got a question?
So to the rest of your college, do you know like any businesses like automatically enroll you into a 401k?
Nope. You got to sign up. Yep. You got to ask and you got to sign up. Rick, question.
The good thing was when I invested in 401k, the monies you put into that, you were not taxed on before.
We're getting there. Okay, so good segue, Rick. Stay out of my preaching. Okay, so the other thing about a 401k is that every dollar that goes into your 401k is a pre-tax dollar, which means that at the end of the year, when you pay your taxes, your taxable income is lower, which means you pay less money in taxes. So the downside is every single dollar that grows in your 401k, when you take it out, you have to pay taxes. Okay, along with that, there is something with a 401k that is called a mandatory, I can't think of the name. No, so, okay, there are two things, it'll come to me. There are two things you need to know about a 401k. Number one, you're not allowed to touch any of the money until you're 59 and a half years old. So it's long-term, plan on it being long-term. If you take it out early, you get hit with taxes and penalties. You can take it out, but you lose a lot of money. Number two, once you turn a certain age, which I believe is 70 or 73 now, you have what's called mandatory, I lost it, and I know I have it somewhere in here, required minimum distributions. Okay, so here's the way it works. All this money you've saved up tax-free. You haven't paid taxes on it. The government says you now owe us tax on it. So from a certain point, a certain age, I think it's when you turn 73, it is, yeah, when you hit the magical age of 73, you are forced to take out a certain percentage of the money. Every year, that amount you have to take out increases until you die. And the way they did the math is to make sure you take all of it out close to your death so they get to tax you on all of it because they don't want to miss out on a nickel. So there is a required minimum distribution once you hit 73 and you're not allowed to touch it prior to 59 and a half years old. Okay. You can take it with you. Your employer matches it. There are limitations. You can only contribute up to a certain amount in your 401k. The next, and I should tell you this, 80% of all millionaires contribute to their employer's 401k as their primary investment tool to become and reach millionaire status. That's it. They just match their employer's 401k.
And employers have all sorts of different not
Oh, yeah.
know what your employer's match is?
Yeah, you're crazy. You have to figure it out. Some employers will be like 6, 8%. You might even be in double digits. Yeah,
Was Chevron. It was
Yeah.
2, you put in 2%, they put in 8. I'm not exaggerating.
wow.
Best I've ever heard of, but I had that.
Yeah.
And it was just stupid.
Yeah, you're stupid not to do it. Because Nick would earn 400% on his money that first year. Why would you not do that? You have to find out if your employer has a 401k and you contribute up to the match level. Joanna, you got a question?
So you're saying that if you only have a 401k, you have forced from spending it all, have nothing left to will to your family?
When you die. No. You said something different. You said you're forced to spend it all. You're not forced to spend it all. You're forced to withdraw it and pay taxes on it.
You don't have to spend it.
No, you don't have to spend any of it.
You're saying it's like,
You can invest it in something else that grows. Yeah. You just have to pay tax on the money because you invested it tax-free. You don't have to spend $1 of it. You probably will because you're going to live off it. Daniil.
so say I turn 59 and I have a ton of money in
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
my 401k. If I take it out and I invest it in a mutual fund or something
Yes.
like that, then do I still have to pay taxes on that money that I've invested in the mutual fund?
No. So the way it's going to work, and this is a great question. Okay, so the first thing is you have to wait with your 401k till you're 59 and a half years old. At that point, you can take out as much of it as you want. At 73, they force you to take it out and pay taxes on it. So let's just say that at 59 and a half, you withdraw whatever, $100,000 because you have a ton of money in it and that's how much you take out. You're going to pay income tax on $100,000 and you will be taxed as ordinary income. Okay, that's the money you made that year. So let's say you're in a 25% tax bracket. So now you have $75,000. Okay, so you take that $75,000 and you invest it into a mutual fund, and that mutual fund is going to be growing by 10 to 12%. When you take money out of that mutual fund, you are only going to be taxed on anything above $75,000. Because the $75,000 you put into it has already been taxed. Correct. This is also very different because the way you're going to be taxed on this is not ordinary income, which is a punch in the face. It is going to be a capital gain. And capital gains are taxed much lower than ordinary income, which is why rich people invest because they get to keep all of their money, as opposed to working and then you end up paying ordinary income. So with a capital gain, I think the max is 20%, and a lot of people make 15 or 10. Some people even pay 0% capital gain, okay, depending on factors, and we'll go over those, but it's not too important right now. You got a question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll turn my
Okay, Barb, what you got?
So you're 73, you start withdrawing, you die.
Yep.
Now, where's that money go?
To whoever you leave it to. So, real quick, listen up. This is very important. When you set up a 401k, you are going to set up a beneficiary. If you die at any point, that person gets it. If I set up a will, and my will says Joanna gets everything I own, but I put in my 401k my beneficiary as Nick, who gets my 401k? Nick. The beneficiary trumps the will. So make sure your beneficiary is set up. Okay. Yeah, question, give it to me.
In this example that you just gave.
Yep.
Say hypothetically drawing money from your 401k at 59 and a half,
Yep.
and then putting it into a mutual fund,
Mm-hmm.
or tax capital gain rate rather than income.
Correct.
Okay,
But only on the increase.
only, but are you talking about putting it into a Roth-based
Nope.
mutual fund?
Nope, by this, and I'll show you, I'll tell you why, because we're going to go over Roth IRA right now. Yeah. Okay, so does anyone know how much the word Roth is worth? Yeah, about $1 million. Who here hates rich people and banks who find loopholes and avoid paying taxes on millions and millions of dollars? Who here hates those folks? Okay, all of you get up, get out, because I'm about to tell you how to do it, and I don't want you hypocrites to hear these secrets. A Roth IRA, individual retirement account, IRA, is a retirement savings account you can open yourself. The superpower of a Roth IRA is that it allows your savings to grow tax-free. Did you hear that? Tax-free. That means when you turn 59 and a half years old, which is the same age you have to be to withdraw money from your Roth IRA, every single dollar you take out of your Roth IRA, you pay 0 taxes on. So everyone's thinking, well, why would I invest in anything else? Well, because the government likes taxing you. So a Roth IRA, you are limited to investing $6,000 per year in your Roth IRA. Well, Patrick, that kind of stinks. If it's going to grow tax-free, I'd like to invest $20,000 a year in it. Yeah, you and me both, sister. But you can't, because the government doesn't like you earning money tax-free. So your Roth IRA has the same rule. You can't take any money out until you're 59 and a half years old. You can contribute $6,000 a year or $500 a month into your Roth IRA. Now, real quick, just to give you guys an idea, this is not, a 401k and a Roth IRA are not an investment. A mutual fund is an investment. A Roth IRA and a 401k is the bucket the investment is held in. And all it does is determine how you are taxed. So you invest in 4 mutual funds that you found and you like, but it is in your Roth IRA. So that means you cannot invest more than $6,000 a year, and you cannot take it out until you're 59 and a half years old. You can take it out early with lots of taxes and penalties, so you don't want to do that. Here's the great thing about a Roth IRA. With a 401k, my employer has the 401k. I set it up, and I invest the money. Well, what about my wife? She's a stay-at-home mom. Well, she doesn't get a 401k. With a Roth IRA, I set up a Roth IRA, and you can set up a Roth IRA in 5 minutes on wellsfargo.com or usbank.com or Ameritrade or any place that you can invest money. Open an account, search for Roth IRA. It'll walk you through the steps. You can start contributing to your Roth IRA tomorrow in 5 minutes. So you start investing $6,000. That's what I did. What did I do the day I got married? I started investing $12,000. My wife, who's a stay-at-home mom, who had no taxable income, has a Roth IRA.
Same account, 12?
No.
6 and 6.
She has her Roth IRA, I have mine, but they don't care who puts the money into it so long as no more than $6,000 are invested per year. So you can start one for your wife as soon as you get married. So you just doubled the tax-free income. So if you, at the age of 16, start investing $500 a month in a mutual fund that's held in your Roth IRA, and you do that till you're 59 and a half years old, you will have $5.5 million, and you can take out any amount of that, and it is 100% tax-free. Along with that, there is no required minimum distribution. In the 401k, when you turn 73 years old, you're forced to take it out. You can leave your money grow in a Roth IRA tax-free until the day you die. Nick.
When you die, and whatever, say my wife is 10 years older than me,
Yep.
can you take it out 59 and a half, or is it like I would turn 59 and a half?
So you can take yours out when you're 59 and a half. Your wife can take hers out when she's 59 and a half. You die early, okay? She gets it, but I don't know when she can take it out. I'm guessing it's going to be when she's 59 and a half.
I just didn't know, like, if you gave it to a kid, which is the more likely scenario.
Sure.
And then, whatever.
Yep. You can open a Roth IRA for your kid as soon as they file federal income taxes. And if you are a sole proprietor, you can pay your kid $13,850 a year starting when they're 7 years old, and they pay zero taxes on it, but they have to file, but their taxable income is zero, and then they can start a Roth IRA with that money. Yep. You want a legacy of multi-millionaires? That's how you do it. Give it to me. Yeah.
Do you buy into the, if you're a little bit older, you should do more 401k than Roth IRA?
Okay, so the rule is match beats Roth beats traditional. If your company has a matching 401k, you put all of your money into it up to the matching level. If you have more money to invest, you put it all into the Roth IRA up to the $6,000 a year level. If you still have more money to invest, you put it into a traditional IRA. All three of these have the 59.5-year rule. So, if you are concerned that you are too wealthy and you want to retire before 60, then you should just invest some money into a mutual fund that is not held in a traditional IRA, a Roth IRA, or a matching 401k, because you can invest money into a mutual fund today and you can sell it all and take the profits out on Friday. You pay taxes on any profits, but that doesn't change with anything except for the Roth.
Can I do a 401k? Obviously, there's no match as a business owner.
You can. There are business owners that offer a 401k and do not have a match. But if that's the case, you're missing most of the benefit. So just put it in a Roth IRA.
My own personal investment.
Yeah, so for you, because of the size of your company, you could not start a 401k for your employers.
Yeah, I didn't know.
But there are vehicles you can do, but again, it'd be something that we'd talk about separately because it's not really that applicable to most people. There are also simple IRAs, SEP IRAs, self-directed IRAs, and we're not going to cover any of them at this time. Any questions on investing so far? I know I've kept you late. We have one more thing to go over, and we will wait until next week. I went over this pretty quick. So ask the questions, and don't be afraid. You can call me or email me, later on. It's not like you have to ask right now. And we all have work tomorrow, and it's 8:30, so I know we all want to go home and watch The Simpsons. So last chance for questions, and we're going to close in a word of prayer, and we'll be done. Washington, would you be so kind as to close us in a word of prayer, and we'll get out of here.